Fantastic. Well, good morning. Thank you for all getting up early and schlepping across town to the IPA to be with us. I'm Liz Wilson from CMW, and I'd like to welcome you to this morning's account management breakfast session. For those of you who've been previously, you'll probably know that this year we are running the whole series around different perspectives on what great service looks like. And I think that comes from a number of places. I think in some of our recent research, we've seen sort of the beginnings of some feelings that maybe the industry's lost its way in terms of providing a really first-class service and being really focused on that. And I think as the business has digitized, maybe we've got a little bit more casual in how we treat some things. And what we do know is that great client service is a big part of the value and the experience that our clients get from their relationships with the agency. So that's why we want to focus on it. And this morning, we have somebody who's got a first-hand and first-class perspective on the subject, which is Emma Harris, who has worked client-side for the last 20 years. And as the sales and marketing director of Eurostar previously, she's worked with some of the best agencies in town, and she's seen pitches from many, many more. So she's got a great insight and a very honest set of insight to share with us today. I think our first task then is to start on our journey with Emma. She's taking us to a very mysterious destination, which is inside the client's mind.
Thank you, Liz. So good morning, and yes, thank you. I'm very honoured that all of you have taken your time to be here this morning, and we've had to put extra chairs in, so I'm very excited. So as you saw there, I am the former Sales and Marketing Director for Eurostar. Just to let you know what I've been up to since then. As Liz said, I've got 20 years in sales and marketing. But previously, I'm actually consulting at the moment. So I went to leave Eurostar in 2011, wrote myself out the plan there, having been in the same brand for 10 years. I thought it was time to move on, and was working on conquering my next big brand, and then found out I was expecting a baby, which at 40 was a nice surprise. And lots of people had said, oh, when you're in between jobs, can you come and do this for us? Can you come and do that for us? So I kind of fallen into being a consultant, which has absolutely been brilliant. I've been working with some amazing agencies and some really great corporates. So I've been doing that on and off for the last year or so. And a lot of the stuff I've been doing is helping agencies work on client service, which is how come I ended up being here today. As a sales and marketing director, there's not many of us around, actually. So I've been obsessive about account management and client service for all of my career, and then finding myself also becoming marketing director and being on the other end of agency client service. It was a real eye-opener, because having been supplier and then suddenly your client, you get a real view in terms of what would be expected, and often that's not delivered. So that's how I kind of ended up being here today. I'm also, just to let you know, as we will be talking about some of this stuff, I'm a non-exec director of a company called K2. Anyone heard of K2? Well, what K2 do is they're all about understanding elite performance in sport and applying that to business, which is brilliant fun. It's all about being a corporate athlete, not a real athlete. As you can see, I'm a corporate athlete mentally. And I'm also an NLP practitioner. So not only are we going to talk about what's expected in terms of a marketing director today, I'm also going to do a little bit about high performance and looking after yourselves, and some visualization outcomes, some clever NLP stuff. So put your seatbelts on and let's go. So what do us clients want? Here's a list of stuff. I'm sure you'll agree, all of it's really relevant. If you were to pick out your top 4, just shout out, what do you think are the most important of those lists? Anyone? Trust. Partnership. Yep. Brilliant. There's no wrong answer, as you might have worked out. But actually, I think the first 3, I have selected 4, which I think are the most important, because I think you can't go wrong. So brilliant, whoever said that. Trust, effectiveness, partnership, and hard work. And that's something we're going to talk about. Is as a marketing director, as a client, whether you're marketing director, brand manager, whatever, feeling that your agency is doing your absolute best for you is a really, really important value. And we're going to talk about how you communicate and behave in that sort of way. So the client-agency relationship. Here's some stats. In 1984, the average client-agency relationship was 7.2 years. By 97, it was 5.3. How long do you think it is average today? 6 months. Who said 6 months? I won't ask what agency you're from. What were other guesses? 3 years is a good shout. It's actually 2.6 years, which is quite frightening, really. I mean, as a client as well, it takes a year to get you trained. It takes a year till we're in a position where the presentations stop having the wrong lead-in fare and, you know, spelling mistakes and all those sort of basic things, where it takes a year. You know, it's like any relationship. It takes a year to really sort of get to know each other. So the fact that then every 2.6 years there's a churn, I mean, that's exhausting. So today we're going to talk about how we create real long-term relationships. And the reason why, I mean, there's so much pressure on both sides. There's pressure from a client, you know, in terms of the bottom line, and there's pressure from the agency in bottom line in terms of how do you service a client well who's squeezing you on a fee, because then you're taking away some of the big brains. Then you get this sort of, well, you're not giving me the best service, well, you've cut our fee in half. So that kind of pressure is what creates tension. You know, basics, metrics not being met. The easiest thing to do is sack your agency, even if it's to do with a million other issues. Creative arrogance, I know I've been on the other end of that, where you've been working with an agency for so long that they're almost ahead of the curve in terms of where the consumer is. And actually you're kind of, let's get back to basics, particularly as a sales director as well, where I'm always about the commercial, I'm always about the does it deliver. I don't care if I'm never on the front page of campaign. What I want to know is this is actually going to put bums on seats, this is going to sell product. So this kind of creative arrogance where it's so intriguing, actually only 3% of your market is going to actually work out what the ad is. That's definitely something I've been on the other end of. Outgrowing the relationship, you know, those sort of, it's like being in love, isn't it? Lack of understanding of the client's business, just never really, you know, I expect my agencies to, when I was at Eurostar, be in the terminal, hang out in the terminal, watch my customers, spend time in my contact centre, listen to phone calls, get under the skin of my customers, and not really understanding what that, you know, not being prepared to do that. It's very difficult, particularly now, where you've got to be so close to the consumer. New management, classic, new marketing director, first thing they want to do is to run a pitch. So these are all reasons why that 2.6 years is happening, which just makes it harder for all of us. So what keeps us awake at night? And the reason I put this stuff in is because you sometimes get a feeling that your agency thinks whatever it is they're talking to you about is the most important thing in your world. That piece of creative, that media plan, that social media platform. Actually, the things that keep particularly marketing director awake are these things. So, you know, obviously the resources, you're constantly being squeezed on resources, and that doesn't just mean budget, that means how do you structure your team, you know, particularly now where you used to have a digital marketing manager, digital is everything, so how do you allocate those resources? How do you make sure that you've got people in the team who are connected into the rest of the business? Driving the numbers in the short term. This balance of brands in the long term, numbers in the short term is a constant struggle because you've got to deliver on your daily numbers, but you've also got a long-term 5-year strategy and you've got sort of consumer engagement, those balances. And then bringing along other departments. I spent so much energy at Eurostar trying to get the customer service teams to understand what our brand promise was, because it's all very well me standing up there telling everyone exploring is beautiful, but if you get someone with a face like a smack tart in the terminal, you've instantly ruined it. So particularly now with always on consumer, the minute you don't deliver on your brand message, you're ruined. So marketing directors spend a lot of their time engaging internally. You know, even finance, if this is what our brand is, don't treat our suppliers like shit. Because if we're all about understanding the customer, you have to behave like that as well. So there's a lot of energy that goes on there, constantly proving ROI. Of course, that's something you guys do as second nature, but helping me have those tools, helping me understand how to evaluate my ROI, not in a sort of, I mean, I do a lot of judging on awards, and it's amazing how fudging these ROI figures can be. When you're sat in front of a CFO who's going to take you to task on it, that is really, really exhausting. And just fighting to get the brand integrated, fighting people who constantly use your old logo on things and don't really get your brand well. That is, I mean, so all this stuff, it's probably stuff you guys don't spend much of your time thinking about. And it's always good to try and think, how can I get my marketing director to sleep better, to be better at his or her job? In recent times, I've sort of mentioned a lot of this stuff, it's got even harder. As many of you may know my name from the Christmas snow disruptions, where we had this lovely marketing platform. I could do a whole speech on it. How we had a lovely marketing platform telling people about, you know, big break, a little break, big difference, and we were, you know, telling everyone how to get to Paris, and then trains get stuck in a tunnel, and we've got no way of communicating to people in a corporate way. You know, I have been caught by the always-on consumer short, but that pressure in terms of brands is so immense. And, you know, this need to be ahead of technology, it's terrifying. I took 4 months off when I had the baby, and I came back and I felt everything had changed. So helping us really understand what's coming, what's coming, what's coming. And this, it's so hard now to be really original. You kind of get the feeling everything's been done. So finding that really unique thing that's going to hit, that's really going to cut through. Huge pressure on budgets, and brand is so much more than a commercial department, and success is so much more than just pen to paper results. So this is the context that we're all living in. You guys know all this. Never ever we relied on our agencies more, which is great for you guys, but doing it in the right way and really being a support, that's what's important. Now, a lot of stuff we're about to talk about, you will know. So none of this is rocket science. Remember, training is not about what you don't know, it's about remembering what you do know. But trust me when I say so many heads of account management that I've worked through a similar program to this are like, this is exactly what people aren't doing. So if you think you are doing some of this stuff, because a lot of this is back to basics, think hard whether you could do it better. Anyway, I'm just going to talk about the pitch. So my legacy at Eurostar was running a European pitch and taking on a new European agency. And what was amazing is the basic stuff that went wrong. I mean, these were the leading agencies in the UK, and they fell at some really basic hurdles. So that's why, and these are chief executive officers that are doing this. So just to give you a bit of the story, we had 120 RFPs. No, I didn't read them all. I had a very clever consultant who did. 6 agency shortlists, I did read them. And we actually ended up with 5. Someone dropped out. 9 o'clock in the morning, when we had a first chemistry session in the afternoon, we got a phone call to say we've taken on too much internal business, we're pulling out of the process. Can you imagine? So we pulled in someone else. And then after the first chemistry session, which went badly, and I'll talk a bit later about how to avoid doing this. This chemistry session with a brilliant agency, I'm not saying who it was, they were so keen to impress us. I think they felt they went into this process being quite a front runner. They were so keen to impress us that rather than use the chemistry session to ask questions, so for me, you've got the marketing team in a room, you're going into a pitch, you pick their brain, pick their brain, pick their brain. I expect you, sorry, I've got to stop grabbing my boobs, and I expect you to know nothing. So behave like you know nothing, that's okay. This agency was so keen to impress us, they'd done 1 million boards. So they would ask me a question like, with your business customers, is the issue that they are, you know, more concerned about the journey, or is it that the cost thing? Because we think, I haven't even answered the question and they've got boards up to tell me what the answer is. I don't need to know you're clever, I know you're clever. You filled out an RFP, that makes you clever. So there's a real interesting learning. That chemistry session went really badly. They could sense we were like, so they pulled out. They freaked out that they weren't going to win, and they pulled out. So, you know, and I desperately tried to pull them back in, but then they'd again won another piece of business and decided it wasn't right. I hope there's no one in the room thinking, oh, yeah, that was me. We loved that agency and we were gutted. There were great tissue sessions that became disastrous pitches. One of the agencies, amazing chemistry session, amazing tissue session, showed us 4 territories. One of them we all went, that's it, that's brilliant. They could tell, we floated out the office, we were hugging and kissing, everything was brilliant. And then they went quiet because they thought we've got it. They took it into research, picked out a piece of insight from the research and went completely left field. And then when it came to the pitch, we went into the pitch going, this is the one. And they absolutely floored it. They were so in the wrong place because they hadn't kept close. They got cocky. They thought, this is our account. They'd already booked their next year's tickets to Paris. And they didn't stay close to me. And I'm a very open person, as you can probably tell. And I'm happy to be kept close to. So the people that actually, after the chemistry sessions, we were a bit, you're kind of getting there. They were the ones that went, okay, so we need to test our thinking, and would phone me up. And I was very open about, we're here. You know, some marketing directors like running pitches under cloak and dagger. Why, I don't know. Because for me, you get the best work you possibly can get. So you bring people with you. As long as it's fair, as long as you're giving everyone the same time, absolutely, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and check for understanding. No one's ever going to go, oh, you must be really thick if you didn't get that. Everyone will be happy. So great first pitches turn into disastrous second pitches. Again, another agency. Amazing first pitch. They knew that they were going into the second stage, head and shoulders above everyone else, because, again, we were like toasting the champagne. They blew us away. And what do they do in the second pitch? I'd been very clear about how I want a 10-minute overview, and then we'd rebrief them on 3 areas. So spend the whole pitch going into the 3 areas. But the CEO was in the room. CEO was in the room. Let me tell you, the CEO did not have a counting vote. He did not have a vote. But because the CEO was in the room, the whole pitch went to the CEO. So all the people that were actually voting were kind of ignored in the second pitch. They spent 40 minutes recapping because they thought they needed to impress the CEO. They even told the same ad-lib jokes as they told, I swear, in the first pitch. It was a complete car crash. And I was sitting there pointing at my watch, you know, quietly to the CEO, saying, you guys, come on, you've got to, you've had, it was 40 minutes into it and they hadn't started talking about the brief. And these are brilliant people. These are top people. So that's why I'm saying about a lot of this stuff being back to basics. Listen to the brief. You've got 10 minutes on this, then go into the brief. Stick with that. So the pitch was an amazing, amazing journey. Oh yeah, one agency partnership. So it was all about having global partnerships. So you had to have a partner in the UK and then a partner that would cover the continent. One of them fell out in the middle. And they were like, no, it's fine. No, really, it's fine because we're going to open an office in London. But, you know, hilarious, even in the pitch we could see, in the chemistry sessions, we could see this kind of frisson between these agencies. And that's what you don't want. If you're arguing between you, keep it away from me. I don't want to have to be a mum between my media agency and my ad agency because they can't get on. I expect you to come into the room being one big happy family. So go and get drunk together. That's the best way to do that. My first meeting as a marketing director, I had 29 people in the room. How many spoke? Guess. 11. How many spoke sense? 6, I counted. So there's another example about keeping your teams tight. There was a lot of wastage in the pitch process. And some agencies just didn't listen. They just didn't listen. We've been very clear. This brief is about the future. There are Germans coming. Sorry if anyone's in the room. Germans, that's fine. But the Germans are going to be launching a service through the tunnel. Everyone says, I love Eurostar. Why? Because I love the train. I love Paris. It's so cool. It's so civilized. Put a train next to it that does the same thing. You strip out all of that love. So it was all about building a brand, not a product. And so many of the agencies couldn't keep away from, we love trains. So listen, consistency won the day. The winning team were consistent throughout. They strategically were excellent. Their creative actually wasn't the best. But you can work on that. That's what we're here for. But strategically, they made sure they worked really hard on getting the insight right. They listened and responded accordingly. They worked so hard. They pulled us back in to check understanding after their first bad chemistry session, which, again, from a personality point of view, wasn't bad. It's just their thinking was off. They asked again. They checked. They were humble. They were professional. They were a great team performance. I'm sure you all know that was AMV. They were absolutely brilliant. I'm okay to say that because it's public knowledge. So I think I've done very well not saying who any of the agencies were in that. I can be bribed. No, I can't. So the lessons learned, and we'll go into this in a bit more detail. Be comfortable with naivety. People do not expect you to go into a room knowing everything about the brand. We don't expect you. Yes, you can trawl through the internet doing loads of research. You can use the product. But really, your clients are the ones with the knowledge. So from the outset, be happy with naivety. If in doubt, ask. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. Did anyone ever ask you a question and you thought that was a really stupid question? No. Actually, generally when people are asking questions, they're impressive. They're good qualifying questions. Listen carefully to the brief. This is basics, but it's amazing. I mean, listen, these agencies I talked about were not Timple agencies, and how many of them didn't listen carefully enough. Keep lines of communication open. Don't assume you're doing the right thing. Go back and check. And this is relevant whether you're in a pitch situation or everyday work. Be prepared to change direction. How many times, and I'll talk about this again later, have I said no to something and it's come back repackaged? Last week it was a pain chocolat, this week it's an almond croissant. No, it's the same thing. Bit more calories in the almond one, you'd be surprised. And really want it. Really want it. That makes a difference. Whatever it is, pitch, getting your campaign through, being delivered, you feel it. You feel the agencies that really want it. You feel that.